This is my PowerPoint for testing procedures in Indiana's 13 areas of exceptionalities. We'll start with the initial evaluation, the referral/request. This is when a student's parents or someone working for the school makes a request or a referral for an educational evaluation of the student, and this basically means the parent or the person working for the school believes that this child has an exceptionality that would fall into one of the 13 categories, and they want it to be formally tested. If the request is made by a parent, it needs to be made in writing to a licensed school personnel, so teacher, school counselor, school psychologist, principal, administrator. The law that is governing this is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law that trumps all other state and local laws. So basically this legislation requires school districts to educate all students, and specifically this law is students with special needs, and therefore they have to plan accordingly and create an environment where these students can thrive and learn. So let's go for the first exceptionality is the autism spectrum. Basically the way I'm going to do this is with each exceptionality I've listed two tests, I guess you could say. Some of them are repeating because some of them the tests are similar for different exceptionalities. So let's say autism, we have a developmental screening. So this is basically to test if a child's basic skills are developing as, I guess, along a normal trajectory as opposed to having delay. Usually this is going to be done by like a medical personnel. Another resource for helping to diagnose autism is just social and developmental history. So this will be information given through parents or people who have interacted and known this individual for a long time, and that will go towards the diagnosis of this exceptionality. The next one is blind or low vision. So one test would be a visual analysis. So basically just having the student look at a word list or read a paragraph and analyzing the student's ability to do that. Another one is the Jordan left-right reversal test, which you can see right here. Little example. So test the student's ability to identify letters and numbers, symbols in the correct orientation or in the reverse orientation. Next is cognitive disability. So first test is social and developmental history, right? Same thing as autism. People who know this individual will be able to add. And another one is the Stanford-Binet intelligence scale, so IQ test. Test for fluid reasoning, knowledge, quantitative reasoning, visual processing, and working memory. So both of these, you'll see the developmental history and the Stanford-Binet are going to be showing up in a lot of cases. Deaf or hard of hearing. So a good way for another, again, we have social and developmental history here. And a written report from an educational or clinical audiologist. So this person is able to formally test hearing in both ears using a number of different methods. Deaf blind. So this is a combination of both hearing and visual impairment. So this could be an optometrist plus an audiologist, both working together to diagnose this exceptionality. Developmental delay is that it's characterized as a disability solely for young children, so 3 years old, not usually more than 5 years old. So this is, I guess, a lot of school, not upper L, not middle L, not high school or middle school. So very specific, and this could be again social development history. So this could involve something like a visual or hearing screening. visual or hearing screening, which could be done. Next is emotional disability. This one's a tough one. Again, we have a social and developmental history, other medical and mental health information that could be educationally relevant. So this could be information from MDs that have worked with this individual, also psychologists or psychiatrists. All of this would go into testing for this. Language or speech impairment. So a student is not eligible for, this is a side note, a student is not eligible for special education related services if the speech impairment or language issue is solely because of the student's native language is not English. So they have to be careful with the differentiating between is this student having issues with language or speech simply because they are an English language learner, or is it because they indeed have issues with language and speech? So in order to test that, we could use this example down here with these 4 pictures is called the Peabody picture vocabulary. So basically the tester would show the student these 4 pictures and describe one of the images and have the student then be able to identify which image the tester is talking about. You could also be used we could also use tests done by speech and language pathologists. Multiple disabilities. So this could be any number of things. So medical information that's educationally relevant is going to be a big one here. So this multiple disabilities basically means coexisting disabilities, one of which must be a significant cognitive disability. So it's hard to know, it's hard to pinpoint exactly which test is going to be used, and it's going to be very dependent on the circumstances and on the individual being tested. Other health impairments, so this would include asthma, as you can see on the bottom, ADHD, diabetes, epilepsy, heart conditions, etc. So this is it's a broad other category. So social and developmental histories can be essential here, as well as medical information that is relevant. Again, a lot of these are going to be very idiosyncratic towards the individual who is being diagnosed. So we need to take into consideration the people who have worked with these people the most. Then we have orthopedic impairment. So this is this would be considered cerebral palsy, amputations, anything that impairs the movement. So again, we have the same available medical information that is relevant. So each individual could be different here. Certain individuals will have more restricted movements than others, depending on how severe. Specific learning disability. So this means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes that has to do with using language spoken or written. So, and that obviously will be affecting the student's educational performance. So we can use the Stanford-Binet intelligence scale to identify that. Any number of these, especially working memory and fluid reasoning. And another big one for this will be an observation of the student in the student's learning environment. So this could be done by a teacher, this could be done by an outside professional, observing the student, taking notes, recording, as evidence towards this, diagnosing with this exceptionality. Traumatic brain injury, so this is any number of things that basically result in the student's cognitive abilities being affected by a traumatic brain injury. So this could be some kind of accident, car accident, any type of force to the head. So social and developmental histories can be essential here, so we know exactly what happened to this individual, and that will go a long ways in helping them and us developing plans for them. Here, the references, I pulled heavily from the readings, especially the one by Waterman, that talks about the areas, eligibility areas. He breaks it down very succinctly. Also pulled from the CDC a little bit, and some other things you can see here. Thank you.